To the Fitchburg Cultural Council's June meeting. This is June 21, 2022. It's 4:32 p.m. The Fitchburg Cultural Council is a volunteer body that's part of City Hall, and we're funded and supported by the Massachusetts Cultural Council. Our work is to improve the quality of life in terms of arts and culture and humanities in the city of Fitchburg. So this evening, we're going to immediately mention that the public is welcome. The public is welcome as well to make comments on any of our agenda items. And we had a member of the community make a comment, which I'm going to read right away. She was unable to be here this evening, and it goes with item number, let me just double check the agenda. It's the FCC 2022 Events and PR Report. And so I'm going to read her comments so we can give her the proper respect for submitting a comment. Her name is Jacqueline Waitee. She said, I'm pleased to see that you sponsored the Juneteenth celebration. This and Emancipation Park are great additions to our city. Some people don't realize Massachusetts once had slaves. The first Massachusetts slave who was freed was Elizabeth Freeman, and she said, any time while I was a slave, if 1 minute's freedom had been offered to me and I had been told I must die at the end of that minute, I would have taken it. Just to stand 1 minute on God's earth, a free woman, I would. That's how precious freedom is, and since your mission is culture, I urge you to promote a culture of liberty, not just honoring historical freedom, but advocacy for civil liberties today. While slavery is perhaps the most egregious loss of bodily autonomy, there are other types. In Fitchburg, we had the Board of Health impose mandates on our bodies, our faces, our arms, depending on your job, and up your noses, and be denied the ability to participate in culture and other extracurricular activities. While these mandates have been lifted due to citizen activism, the Board of Health refuses to promise that they will not impose them again. I urge everyone in the Cultural Council, as well as anyone watching at home, to contact Board of Health at fitchburgma.gov and ask them to never impose them on our freedoms. Although documents like the Constitution enumerate our rights, they do not grant them, and so the government does not have the right to remove them. These rights are innate. As Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Independence, people are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, not by the Board of Health, but by our Creator. Thank you. So we want to thank Jacqueline Waitee for her comment and for submitting that today. We're sorry you couldn't be with us to present this in person, and we invite the public in the future to submit comments as long as they are in harmony with our agenda before the meeting. So with that, we're going to move on to, I think we have quorum.
We do.
So we're going to move on to our bylaws because we need to do these. So how we're going to do this is we're going to do this item by item, so we're article by article. And just a point of order, what we'll do is we will not read through them one by one, but we will access the article and then ask for someone to make a motion so we can discuss it if there's any discussion needed. So we'll start with article number 1. This is the Fitchburg Cultural Council's bylaws. We have a draft in front of us that's February 15th. So we'll start with article number 1, which is our name. Can I have a motion on article number 1?
I'll make a motion to approve Article 1 as stated.
I'll second that.
Thank you. So we have a motion from Matt on article number 1 to approve article number 1 and a second from Claudia. Would anyone like to speak to the motion on article number 1? So let's take a roll call vote. We don't need a roll call. We can do hands today. This is perfect. Post-Zoom life. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
So article number 1 passes as written. Let's move to article number 2, which is our purpose, which comes pretty much directly from the Massachusetts Cultural Council. So I'd like to take a motion on article number 2, our purpose.
I have some edits in here. Do I motion for?
We have to have a motion first. We have to have a motion first.
Motion to make edits?
So we have a motion from Casey to discuss article number 2.
Second.
We have a second from Jesse. So on our article number 2, we have a couple comments. Go ahead, Casey.
Formatting of the Massachusetts Cultural Council and Fitchburg Cultural Council responsibilities just for readability as a 1, 2, 3 or like a dot sort of bullet list. and removing the last, I guess the like second and third to last are repeats, so we need to take those out as well. And we had some questions on the second, third, and last bullet points under secondary roles.
Yeah, everybody can see the comments there on the right. So basically, our purpose from the council is stated by the Mass Council, and then as we decide individually as a group here, how we'd like to advocate and what resources we'd like to provide, certainly we have the rights to do that within our meetings each month, make adjustments. I think Casey removing these two lines makes a lot of sense. And then as far as how we expand on them, I think this is something that we should discuss month by month as we're working on something specific. Would everyone agree to that?
Yes.
Right? Does anybody else have any other comments with Casey's comments? So can we move to a vote to accept Casey's adjustments to Article number 2? There's no further. Go ahead, Liz.
The original motion was a motion to discuss Article 2. I think we need to vote on that and then make a motion to accept the changes? Because the motion didn't initially include accepting the changes.
That is true.
Okay, fair. Casey, would you like to make a motion, a new one?
I'd like to make a motion to accept changes to the primary and secondary roles of the council and Article 2 generally.
Okay, so to clarify, you're making a motion to accept the changes that you outlined?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table to accept the changes outlined. Does anybody want to follow with a second motion?
A second.
Thank you, Jesse. So all in favor to accept Article 2 as presented by Casey?
Aye.
All in favor, perfect. That passed.
Actually, I'm sorry, point of order, I didn't see Sam's response.
I don't know what we're talking about. This is the reason why I hadn't said anything.
Okay, you're welcome to abstain, that's okay.
Okay,
We just need a yes, no, or abstain.
yes.
Awesome.
Yes, okay.
Joe, I'm abstaining too because I'm catching up.
So just for everyone coming in, we're on the bylaws and we're on Article number 3 is where we'd be starting. So it's the stapled sheet that's in front of you. You guys should have it.
And I'm sorry, could someone refresh me who, so the motion to vote on it was by Casey?
Casey and
seconded by
Jesse.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone ready to move on to Article 3?
I have one more amendment.
Okay.
Thanks. So motion to amend Article 2's references to humanism and humanists and change it to like Fitchburg residents or human-centered terminology because humanism and humanist terminology is generally neo-colonialist.
Can you reference the paragraph, please?
Let me see. On goals of Fitchburg Cultural Council, the last sentence is contribute to the cultural vitality of our city by funding creative, cultural, and humanistic projects involving primarily Fitchburg cultural organizations and Fitchburg artists and humanists.
It's very entertaining. Joe?
Casey, could you be specific in what you would like it to read so we have something to vote on?
She just did. Sorry.
Do you want to come up with some language in the discussion?
Yes, yeah, human-centered residents of Fitchburg were my recommendations. Human-centric is another one.
Oh, sorry. Liz wants to say something.
Could you say that sentence with your replacement words in there?
Of course.
Just so we understand.
So the goal of Fitchburg Cultural Council is to contribute to the cultural vitality of our city by funding creative, cultural, and human-centric projects involving primarily Fitchburg cultural organizations, Fitchburg artists, and Fitchburg residents.
Well done. Anyone want to make a motion to approve or not the new statement in Article 2, Paragraph 3?
I will make that motion. Oh,
We have a motion from Liz to approve the new Paragraph 3 under Article 2. Would anyone like to follow up with a second motion?
I'll second that.
Claudia made a second motion, so Anyone speaking to the motion?
I have an alternative, just humanities projects, because I'm assuming that humanistic projects is supposed to be referring to art, science, and humanities.
It's humanities, yep. So are you amending?
Yeah, my suggestion is funding creative, cultural, and humanities projects.
Do you want to amend your,
It was Liz's motion.
Yes.
with Liz's motion?
I think that is slightly clearer that we're capturing that word humanities, so I'll make that amendment.
Thank you very much. Anyone want to second the amended?
Second?
Okay. So we've amended the third paragraph of Article 2 with the language that Audrey just gave us. Anyone else want to speak to the motion? All in favor of the amended paragraph 3 in Article 2?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Audrey, could you please email me the amended sentence for number 3?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go on to membership. This is Article 3. So can we get a motion on the table so that we can open this one up?
Motion to amend Article 3?
So we have a motion from Casey to amend Article number 3. Anyone want to second the motion?
I second.
Thank you, Jesse. You had some comments, Casey?
I do. Let me see where I'm trying to figure out where to start.
Joe?
So there were,
Second.
May I suggest, because it looks like this membership item, Article 3, has 3 or 4 or 5 distinct changes to it. Could we go one by one,
yes.
please? Okay.
So the first amendment would be to the final sentence of the beginning paragraph of Article 3 is state regulations do not require that LCC members live in the town of whose council they serve or that they are over 18 years of age. Do we want to put an age amendment? Is the question.
I'd like to make a comment on that. So the person that would be here with us would need to have, if they were younger than 18, parental approval to be here. They also might need assistance with transportation, or have a parent here with them since they're underage. I would be in favor of keeping 18, since it would allow a little more flexibility with what the person's capable of doing in the community as well.
Would that end up excluding our high school participants?
I mean, I think we could, go ahead, let's see, let's start in order. Audrey?
I feel, in the past, we've had student members, and I don't think their parents came to our meetings, but they were like high schoolers. It was a few years ago.
Who was next? Jesse? Do you have a comment? Liz?
I was just going to say, the way I read this, it looks like right now we do not have an age restriction at all. So we would be placing, I just wanted to clarify, are we looking to place an age restriction on membership?
Perhaps 16, 15, something along those lines?
Certainly, I think we were talking about this, somebody was with me, and how interesting it would be if they were a very proactive young person and they wanted to get involved, provided we had support from the family. It would be nice to have them, but also we would need certain skill sets and flexibility with their schedule. So, Liz?
I would wonder if it makes sense to think of it in the same way as a high school student who needs a work permit in order to have a job. So if you're old enough to get a work permit, maybe you're old enough to participate in a board like this.
What age is that?
Well, my son just got his work permit and he's 15, not quite 16. So I think it's somewhere between 14 and 16, but I don't know specifically if that changes by community or
And driver's license in the state of Massachusetts?
16. Well, 16 and a half with driver's ed.
Claudia, you're looking at me. Do you have a thought?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay. Jesse?
Is there a precedent on any other committees for teen involvement?
I'm not aware. Anyone aware? Do we want to adjust this? What does everyone feel? Joe?
I had a comment. Just for clarification for the Cultural Council is that ultimately the mayor decides on the appointments, and there are no restrictions applied to the mayor for this. The Fitchburg Cultural Council, we make our own appointment recommendations to the mayor, and we use the ability and capacity to serve, including their skills and experience, that will help us as a council to make these recommendations regardless of age. So in my opinion, this doesn't need to be a restriction placed at all, since the mayor can override anything because he's the appointing authority. However, I think that it's important for us to know, since we are allowed to make recommendations, which I think is great, that we should try not to put an age limit on something when we're presented with a potential candidate who has some skills and experience or abilities that would really help us out. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice comments. So based on that, Casey?
Redacting my amendment.
Okay. Which means we would, in theory, keep that sentence as is. Let's go on to the next point that you brought up, Casey.
All right, the next one is under new members. Motion to amend the first sentence, which is nominations for new members shall be accepted in the spring of each year, to seasonally.
So just to jump in on that one really quickly, so the spring of each year would be post our grant season, because if we brought someone in during the grant season, it's very difficult. So maybe we could adjust this to be the other quarters of the year. So summer's perfect, spring's perfect, fall is going to be difficult for us. Even winter post grant season would be great. But during the grant season would be difficult for the new member and also difficult for us.
Absolutely. I agree.
Joe?
To add on to Tamar's note, I just had made a note on this that I think an amendment to the statement could be appropriate, and instead of saying in the spring of each year, we could state at a frequency that supports the potential appointments to be staggered so as to maintain continuity of council services.
I do like that.
We like that a lot.
And my further statement to this was that appointments during the grant application or review process should be discouraged to avoid potential delays in the grant approval process. Having been one of about 5 people who have joined during the start or in the middle of a grant review process, it is very confusing and sometimes difficult to get through the process when you don't know what you're doing. You haven't had enough time to sit with a council member. So.
And that could be discouraging, too.
Yeah, and actually, since I was president at the time these bylaws were last ratified, that was the main impetus behind putting that statement in there. It was just to help the council operate more efficiently during the grant season.
So I think we should get a motion on the table, maybe to approve this paragraph here under new members with the adjustment that Joe mentioned to us. How do you feel about that, Casey?
Could we get the full sentence again one more time, Joe?
Sure. Where the first sentence under new members, it says nominations for new members shall be accepted, and then from there, we will finish the sentence with, at a frequency that supports the potential appointments to be staggered so as to maintain continuity of council services. And then furthermore, appointments during the grant application and review process should be discouraged to avoid potential delays in the grant approval process. And I can send that text to anyone who wants
I
it.
type fast, but.
Yeah. I'll send that to you, Matt.
Okay, so let's get a motion on the table, if everyone's in agreement, to approve the new member section in Article 3, the first paragraph there, with the amended text as Joe just read to us.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve that from Casey. Anyone want to second the motion?
I'll second that.
Claudia made a second. Anyone speaking to the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries. Let's move on to the next point, Casey, which I think there is paragraph 3 under new members as well. There's a highlighted section that reads, the community's chief elected official appoints LCC members. which is slightly redundant because the paragraph before that basically says that the mayor does appoint the new members, which is as it is.
So would that be a motion to remove? Yeah. Motion to remove the final sentence of the last paragraph under new members?
Mhm. Are you making the motion?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So Casey's making a motion under the Article 3, new members, the third paragraph, removing the last sentence. Anyone want to second the motion?
Second.
Jesse seconds the motion. Anyone speaking to it? All in favor?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Okay.
Just a point of clarity, we're removing the redundancy of that paragraph, not the fact that the mayor appoints.
No. Yeah,
I don't have that power.
No, it's his job. Okay, so we're moving on to training.
Actually, point of order.
Oh, yes.
There was a statement in Article 3. It was the bottom of page 1 and carried over into the top of page 2
We missed it.
Under term limit?
Oh,
under term limits. I think, Casey, this was yours. You wanted some clarification, maybe?
That has already been cleared up. There are a few notes on here that have been cleared up
Oh, okay.
recently.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
then I guess we're good.
Okay, we're good. So we're moving on to training here. The first paragraph, this is a suggestion on training. And I'm just going to ask Audrey a question. Do you have any news from Mass Council?
So I talked to Lisa Simmons to see if she would be willing to host a orientation/refresher course for us on LCC guidelines, open meeting laws, Robert's Rule of Orders, all those kind of things. She said that she was interested, but I haven't heard back from her for a little while. But I did, I'm going to pass around a sheet of just your general availability so that I can figure out how to schedule when would work for her. And please be specific in terms of like, I'm free anytime after 5 p.m. or something like that on this day. It also has surveying and tabling stuff on there, so check off if you're able to do that.
Thank you very much. All right, so yes, Joe? Oh, hands up.
I'll let Liz
Joe,
go.
I was just going to say, is there an online training portal still? Because if there isn't, I don't think we can require, it doesn't make sense to put something in, require something that doesn't actually exist.
So we would need to make, a motion to discuss that, but
Oh, I was just going to explain the current. So how it is currently is that new members receive a link to the training web link, but it's kind of like you just click through it and then I guess you tell one of us, I read it. So.
Joe?
So thank you, Audrey. That actually answered my question. I knew that the Mass Cultural Council had in the past had training programs set up for new members. The experience was exactly the same for me when I came on. I think continuing along that as a requirement of a new council member, I think that's important because it maintains the continuity of the council. Everybody understands their different roles and where the council fits into the whole scheme of arts and culture. And where I was going with this was that having it remain in the bylaws, I think, is reasonable, since nothing has really changed on that, except there's no place, unless you've found otherwise, Audrey, and maybe you can answer this, that there's no place for us to track membership trainings and such, like with dates and things like that, like there used to be, because I know we went to a new electronic format last year. So there's no more council member tracking system on there?
So right now, when I adapted like a spreadsheet, I know that it said that when people trained, but it was extremely not updated, in which it didn't have the dates for most of the members. So I didn't really know how to like keep up with that. Another thing to contend is that on here it says complete the online training before they are considered a voting member, in which I never understood that as a protocol. But I support it though too.
Yeah, so, can I make a suggestion on a motion
Yes.
on this? Okay. I would say leave the language as is. We will, having a council member tell us that, yes, they've clicked through the training, I think would be sufficient for us, for our knowledge that they've been through the training. I think that once we get into the grant approval process or other council operations, and we can generally tell if someone's really been through the training based on how they conduct themselves during meetings and such. So I think leaving that in there would be sufficient. And so I would recommend leaving language as is with one change, and remove the requirement to be a voting member out of there. So new members are required to complete the online training, which I believe that should stay, but we don't need to restrict their voting member status because they're automatically a voting member once they're appointed.
Yeah, that's fair.
So editing to that effect, I think, would be a good motion.
Yeah.
And I can try to tighten that up in text and type for you, Matt.
All right, so we do need to make a motion. So this is on the article number 3 on the bylaws, Fitchburg Cultural Council bylaws, training section, the first paragraph. And then there's an adjustment there with removing that other text below it, the last paragraph. So if we could get a motion on the table for amendment number 3, training section, keeping the first paragraph as is.
I'll second that motion. Oh, wait, I'm firsting that motion.
Yeah, you are. I can't actually make it. All right, so we have a motion from Liz. Does anyone want to second the motion?
I'll second it.
A second from Matt. Do we have anyone else want to speak to the motion?
I actually would like to speak to the
Okay.
motion. Do we want to consider adding in the state-required ethics training into this clause at the same time? Or do we feel comfortable that because that is in the city clerk's purview to ensure that boards do that, board members do that we're covered in that way? So that's a question. Do we want to include
Question.
ethics or leave it out?
I believe
Because-
we're covered with the city clerk.
Okay.
I think that's fair, too. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, everyone voted yes, so that motion carries to keep the first paragraph under training, remove the second of article number 3. All right, I know we've got a few members that have to leave shortly. Thank you, Claudia. So we'll move on to article number 4 and see how far we can get before, yes?
Sorry, another point of order. Can we
Yes.
just have a vote on the second paragraph?
Oh, yeah, well, okay, I was including them both, but okay, fair enough. So we'd like to take a motion to remove the second paragraph under training in article number 3.
Motion to remove the second paragraph?
We have a motion from Casey. Anyone want to second that motion?
Second.
Jesse seconded that motion. All in favor, or anyone speaking to the motion first? Liz?
I'm confused. The training is only 2 paragraphs, and the second paragraph we just went over. So now we're taking it out after we approved the language change?
Yes, because it discusses being a voting member.
We were covering the
Oh, we're
first
taking
paragraph.
out just the voting member piece.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, because we're allowed to vote once the mayor puts us here.
got it. Thank you.
So I think we had a motion from Casey to remove the second paragraph under training, and we had a second from Jesse. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. That was everyone. Now we can move on to article number 4, which is officers. I think we have a first point here, adding the word in the second paragraph, including co-positions. Which is one change. And then if we get to the 1, 2, 3, so under the secretary, There's some comments here, which I'll move over to you, Casey. I believe these are your notes. Is that correct?
Some of them are yes.
You had some amendments here.
I believe most of these are Audrey's notes.
Are they yours?
Let's see.
Who's blue and who's red? It's a little confusing.
I'm red, Audrey is blue.
Okay.
So I had originally taken out including co-positions. Audrey had said that she agreed. So I guess motion to remove, or no, add in terminology including co-positions to the second sentence of Article 4.
Okay, so Article number 4, second paragraph, there's a motion on the table by Casey to remove including co-positions, correct?
To add, right? Not remove.
Correct.
Add.
To add. Okay, all right, got
Second
it.
that.
Liz made a second motion. Anyone want to speak to that motion? Joe?
So I look at a co-position as a position itself, so I don't know if we need to actually clarify that. What I think might be good to do is for each of the positions, the chair, the secretary, and the treasurer, to put a slash co-chair, co-secretary, co-treasurer next to it, and to sort of, to further justify why I suggest that is that these co-positions work with the office holder to perform all of the duties. How they're split up is really at the discretion of those who have agreed to take on those roles. So I think it meets with the spirit of what Casey was looking for, perhaps. Or Audrey, I forget who it was we decided made the suggestion. But I think that might cover it for you.
Okay, yeah, no, I like the suggestion. This is something that I had put in previously and then taken out again. So I'm not entirely sold on it either.
And it makes sense in the way that, I guess if something happens to any of us, then the co-chair, it's obvious then that they slip right into that role naturally, right?
Staring at me.
I'm staring at you, Audrey. Okay, so Casey, would you like to amend that change, that motion?
I would like Joe to motion to amend.
Oh, he
since it's
can't,
his-
he's not voting.
I can
remember?
define your motion if you like.
Please,
Okay.
define that motion.
I would word the motion to strike the suggestion to include co-positions in that first paragraph under Article 4, and then add a co-chair, a slash co-chair, slash co-secretary, slash co-treasurer on each of the respective positions there.
Beautiful, thank you. Motion to omit including co-positions and add in co-chair, co-secretary, and co-treasurer to further positions.
Okay, so we have a motion from Casey for all positions under officers to have a comma with co-chair, co-secretary, co-treasurer. Would anyone like to second the motion?
Second.
We have a second from Jesse. Anyone like to speak to the motion? Audrey?
Is there a way that we can like word it that these co-positions are optional? Because I feel like the purpose of the bylaws is that, this is like what is necessary, what is needed. We currently don't have a co-secretary I guess, I don't know, sort of-ish. Or, I think we will always need a co-chair. I think that's important. Whether or not we need a co-treasurer is, might depend on the council.
I think it's good to have them because we never know when we're going to have co-seats. When we first started, there was no co-seat for chair, so it will flux with how many members are on the council. Did you have a comment, Joe?
I did. Just for a point of clarification on the purpose of these bylaws is to provide additional information about how the local cultural council will run. So it's supplemental to the Mass Cultural Council's guidelines that we have. And in the Mass Cultural Guidelines, they have every single position that they suggest that any council would have. And I would propose to say that what we're adding here is equally as optional as what the Mass Cultural Council provides for us.
So we were at a vote from Casey, a motion to add these things, co-chair, et cetera. We have a second from Jesse. All in favor? Motion carries with one abstention.
Who abstained?
Audrey? Okay. Casey, can I just ask you, option L here, ex officio, is this your note or is that
That is
Audrey's? So we're moving to the last item under article number 4. Audrey, could you give us your notes on adding this?
Point of
sorry.
order.
Yes.
Which one, the secretary?
Is there a vote on the ex officio?
There's not been a vote yet.
Okay.
You want me to do it? Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to add optional ex officio to Article 4.
Anyone want to second the motion to add ex
Second.
officio? We have a second from Casey. Anyone want to speak to the motion? Joe?
I'm in favor of doing that. I wanted to see if we could also add in what that job description would be, and it's a real simple sentence, is to serve annually as voted by the Fitchburg Cultural Council membership during the annual position voting meetings.
What Joe said.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah.
Just that the ex officio member, just for the council's knowledge, is that it is specified as to what the job description is for that role in the Mass Cultural Council guidelines. I just wanted to add in just a note as to how we've typically approached the ex officio role here in Fitchburg, and that it has been an annual service, and we vote that in annually when we do our own officer votes, when we have that meeting. So the language would read, serves annually as voted by the FCC membership during the annual position voting meetings.
Thank you, Joe.
And I will get that more specific to you, Matt, if it passes.
And so Audrey, would you like to amend your motion?
Yes, I would like to amend my motion, and I would also like to add on there that, add to that sentence, the ex officio may not vote on any council matters.
That is what that means, and that's correct. Yeah,
Sorry.
that's all right. So
I will say that apparently what I had written before, I don't know if I copied and pasted this, but I wrote, if the council feels they need a former council member to be an advisor on municipal, state, mass cultural council expectations, protocols, requirements, et cetera, to help members may recruit an ex officio to act as a mentor. The ex officio may not vote on any council matters.
okay, so could you redo your motion?
I would like to redact my previous motion and make the motion, add an optional ex officio if the council feels they need a former council member to be an advisor on municipal, state, mass cultural council expectations, protocols, requirements, et cetera, to help members may recruit an ex officio to act as a mentor. The ex officio may not vote on any council matters.
In addition to Joe's sentence?
I don't know how to combine it. If someone else wants to second and then change it, they're welcome to.
Okay, I'm going to pass on this one, and we'll wait till next time, so we have a proper sentence structure in place that everyone can read on paper.
That one's written in the comments.
That's what?
Yeah,
So the comments on the sides?
yeah.
We don't have Joe's, though, and we all agreed we liked it. Joe?
We don't have a motion on the table. We have a motion on the
We have a
table.
motion on the table from Audrey.
We need to ask for a second before we can move on
Okay,
to what I want to talk about.
okay.
Didn't Audrey retract her motion?
She did, and she made a new
We
one.
retracted,
I
okay.
retracted it, and then I made a new one with, where it just had comment 22, basically.
Okay, so we need a second. Can I have a second motion?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Liz. So all in favor of adding optional L ex officio with the amended text in the right, as Audrey mentioned to us.
Can I speak to the motion?
You can.
I think that this all makes sense, that this is what the ex officio's role is, but I think that's kind of what the ex officio's role is. Do we need to state it? Like, do we state what the chair does and what the secretary does and all the other roles?
It's stated at the Mass Council level. I mean, technically, we could copy paste from them, which would sort of simplify things a little bit. I think this is a way to make it more Fitchburg,
Okay.
but, you know. Any other comments?
I just
Joe?
had a question. Did that include or not include the sentence I proposed?
It did not include.
Can you repeat your previous sentence?
My previous sentence was to serve annually as voted by the Fitchburg Cultural Council membership during the annual position voting meetings.
And that was already approved, correct? We already voted on that one?
No, that's what
No.
We didn't vote on
We
it.
didn't vote on that.
Oh,
That's what I had asked Audrey to amend. So we don't have it amended. So all in favor, as Audrey stated?
I still, I guess I'll vote yes, but
So motion doesn't carry, which leaves us in an interesting place.
Another motion could be made.
Okay,
this one, yeah, someone can make a new motion.
So I would move to rework that to say that the ex officio serves annually as voted during the annual voting meeting, which Joe had phrased very nicely. So I want to keep that in there. And then to add a second and potentially third sentence that would be taken from Audrey's comment 22, which just describes, I'm trying to think of how to say it, that the ex officio would be a former council member to be advisor on municipal, state, mass, cultural council expectations, protocols, requirements, et cetera, to help members recruit, to help and act as a mentor. You know what? As I say it out loud, I kind of feel like it needs a little wordsmithing.
that's why I thought maybe
Yeah.
we should pass. Since I
Yeah.
wanted to keep this to 45 minutes today, and we're at 5:15 already,
Okay.
and we're only on Article 3. So if it's okay with the council, I would like to stop at Article 3,
This is 4, actually.
4, paragraph starting with the optional ex officio. And then we'll pick it back up next month. And then we all have time between now and then to think how this should be phrased. And what we will do is send a new draft around, starting with Article 4 at the last point. Okay? Is that good? Because
If I could just, can I
yes,
make one more comment?
yes.
We don't have grant coordinator in here anywhere, but that has been a role that Eileen is playing, so we might want to consider language to add that in when
That's
we
fair.
come back to this.
That is fair. And I know we had another member who needed to leave. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you for coming today, Casey. So I think I still have voting, we have a ability to vote? Yeah, okay. Because I think the next thing I want to do, so we don't run out of time, is since Eileen's not here, I'm just going to read it. We do have a request from one of the council members. It's in front of you. It's dated May 31st. It was after our last meeting. I'll just briefly read it. Thanks so much for your contribution. This is from the Friends of the Fitchburg Abolitionist Park. As you're aware, we had to postpone much of the development work at Fitchburg Abolitionist Park due to the pandemic. While we were unable to do some of the work last spring, we were unable to complete the mural portion due to the funding constraints initially. We were awarded an additional $25,000 by the North Central Mass Community Foundation last fall, and now have enough funding to complete the mural. To update you, we put out an RFP for the mural in April. Proposals are due by June 10th. We'll announce who we selected at a later annual Juneteenth event on Saturday, the 18th. The mural panels have been purchased and prepared ahead of the muralist selection. We anticipate that the mural will be complete and installed in Fitchburg Abolitionist Park by the end of August 2022. Thanks ahead of time for extending our deadline once again, and thank you for your continued support. So I'd like to get a motion on the table to approve their extension.
I'll make a motion to approve the extension for Abolitionist Parks mural project number 43195.
Thank you, Audrey. So we have a motion from, excuse me,
What date?
what date?
To what date is that extension?
To December 2022.
Okay, so we have a motion from Audrey to extend the Friends of the Abolitionist Park grant until December 2022. Anyone want to second the motion?
I'll second.
Matt seconded the motion. Anyone want to speak to the motion? Motion carries. And since,
Oh,
excuse
need a
me.
vote.
Let's do the vote. Forget the vote. All in favor?
I have to abstain.
Okay, one abstention. Jesse. All right, and I'm going to let them know since Eileen's not here today. I'll take care of that. Okay, so as far as I knew, unless anybody else knows of something, I didn't have anything, other adjustments from anyone. I think that's it, right? Okay, so we're going to move to the treasurer's report, which is Liz, briefly.
Yes, and I think, Audrey, you came in late, so you didn't have a copy of it. Does everybody else have a copy?
Yes.
You got it?
Yes.
All right, so this is May. We have just over $1,600, $1,609.25 in our local accounts. I haven't seen a transaction requesting the scholarship yet. Okay, just making sure. In our FY21 account, we have $6,408.70. We had 2 transactions, which were from the previous year. It appeared, I had thought, and the comment in here says that we may have duplicated a payment. That was not actually the case after I looked back to it and talked to Eileen. The 2021 payment that was made in October of 21 was actually a grant from the grant year 2020, but there was no information on it for the grant year, and so the mayor's office that does process our invoices coded it as 21, and so that's why I thought it was a duplicate. It isn't, which is good, but it presents us with a different problem in that we accounted for this as being paid in 2021, and so now we've paid it out of 2022 funds, basically. So we may have to eat that out of admin as a result.
What's the amount?
$1,000.
Okay.
So moving on, we do have $20,623 in our 2022 grant. That is not paid out, but of course our grants are committed, except for the admin. So we still have grantees that are signing their grant agreements and requesting or have not requested their payment yet. So it would be very helpful if we can, considering that we're not necessarily in the kind of pandemic that we were in before, if we can try to be a little cleaner with how and when we give extensions and noting that. So I think that's just a communication and tracking project for us. But in total, we have $28,640.95 still in our bank account, and other than that one issue, we are in good shape.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when do we need to do something about that issue?
Well, I think that I'll go back to, I think it would probably make some sense if I separate out our 2022 grant funds from our admin funds and show that separately. So then I'll take the deduction of $1,000 out of the admin, and we'll see what we still have in admin, because right now it's all bulked together, the grants and the admin. So that way in the future we'll be able to see exactly what's what.
That's great. Okay. Let us know if we need to vote
And
on
we,
it.
Eileen and I and the mayor's office have talked about, well, we've already, implemented that change to make sure that the grant number and grant year is on every grant agreement that goes to the mayor's office, so that this kind of a thing doesn't happen again.
That's great. Thank you, Liz.
And just a question. Liz, is it you or Eileen that tracks all of our grant extensions?
I do not track the grant extensions, but what I have been doing is every time we make a payment, I go into the master grant sheet and mark that payment made and the date on it, so any of us can go into that master sheet and see who's been paid and who hasn't. But it's only FY22 and FY21, and then there's a caveat that if there was other situations like this, I'm not aware of them, so I haven't, so we have some potential for lingering issues like that, but let's hope not.
Well, it sounds like you're really pulling everything together. We appreciate it.
I think Eileen and I together are capturing it all, and working out the kinks. So I expect that this won't happen again going forward.
Thank you very much. All right, so we're going to move on to the FCC events and PR report, and I was hoping Audrey had done a one sheet for all of us, which you can pass around. Perfect, yay, which has all the important dates we need to know. Audrey, could you take maybe 2 minutes just to give us a quick briefing on what's happening, what we need to know, where we need to be when?
Sure. So very quickly, all right, I'm just going to go along the lines of different events that are happening. So you guys already should have the tabling sheet being passed around. Where is it right now?
Thank you.
With Joe.
Excellent, Joe. Make sure to keep it passing. We are doing surveys. I think we have about at least 45 survey responses so far. And one of them is, one of the events that we can table at is at the block party. And speaking of which, Natalia Oliver has reached out to us saying that they want to do a photo op for Civic Day sponsors. And that's going to be on Friday. I think I wrote on the here, Friday at 10 a.m. at City Hall. So if you're able to...
Going.
Nice. I think I should be able to come too. They said the more the merrier. So if you guys are able to come, please do. Community input meeting. So Fitchburg Art Museum said that we could do Thursday, July 21st. But there would be a $120 fee for staffing because they wouldn't normally be open. And we could take that out of administrative funds because it is for the public input meeting, and that's the purpose for it. An alternative would be Thursday, August 4th, which is the first Thursday, and they will already be open. I think I've heard from everyone here. Yeah, and
Audrey, could we vote on that since we're all here and we have voting?
I will say this, unless things have changed, I believe Matt said that he could not do first Thursday, and Jessie said that she preferred not to do first Thursday. And for July 21st, I think everyone here can do that.
I can't do August 4th now either.
So
Right.
do we want to put a motion on the table then to spend the funds and just do July 21st?
I'll make a motion to make the public input meeting at Fitchburg Art Museum on Thursday, July 21st from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. And also that we will, should I include that in the vote?
Might as well, that we're willing to spend the funds.
Vote in spending $120 staffing fee.
Okay, so we have a motion from Audrey to do our public input meeting 7/21, 5:30 to 6:30 at the Fitchburg Art Museum with an $120 fee from our administrative funds. Anybody want to second the motion?
I'll second.
We have a second from Matt. Anyone want to speak to the motion?
Yes, could I suggest that we increase the amount that we spend to incorporate just some basic snacks as part of that public input meeting? It always seems to be better. You always get better attendance and I think better input, frankly, when people have food.
Do you want to amend your motion?
Do you want to just like vote on a budget kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what is reasonable for getting some, cheese and crackers or whatever, what kind of food that we want to get, little snack things. But, I don't know, $100?
$100.
Which would bring it to 220.
Does that seem
Should we just do a budget of like 250?
That-
We don't have to meet that.
Right.
I'm just saying, don't go over it.
That seems reasonable.
Seems reasonable to me.
All right, I will amend my initial motion to change it to a budget of $250 for the public input meeting. And can I include the public input surveys in there?
So Audrey's amended her vote, or her motion to do 7/21 public input meeting at FAM, 5:30 to 6:30, with a budget of, what was it, 350? 250. 250. Anyone want to second the motion?
I'll amend or second the amended motion.
We have a second from Liz. Anybody else speaking to the motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. So motion carries. So 7/21 is our public input. Hopefully we can all be there. And Audrey's given us a nice list of other events we need to attend or keep in mind. And I will finish writing this list over here of tabling. We're at 5:29. The only other things on the agenda were our FCC TV report and approving minutes, which I didn't get to anyway. So I think I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion from Audrey to adjourn at 5:30 PM. Anyone want to second the motion? Matt, all in favor? We'll adjourn at 5:30. Thank you.